House will come back to order. I told you I was going to be sharp on time when I wasn't. House will come back to order. I'm going to ask the clerk, members will come in. Mr. Clerk, how about ring the bell, if you will? Let folks know we're getting ready to get started. All members, please come to the floor because I'm going to ask the clerk to read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions. Mr. Clerk.
Honoring the life and legacy of Mother Bernice Brim Powell. Honoring the life and legacy of Melinda Naomi Givens. Honoring the life and legacy of Mother Annie Eliza Brim Hughes. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. Tommy Harrison. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. Henry Harrison. Honoring the life and memory of Kristen Morgan Watley. Honoring the life and memory of Madrian Peoples Leonard. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. Right Reverend Gregory Carl Davis. Honoring the life, military service, and civic contributions of Major General George J. Hearn, Jr. Recognizing, commending Om Dugal. Recognizing, commending Roberto Vargas. Recognizing, commending Bruce Huff. Honoring and recognizing and honoring the cultural legacy and contributions of Field Mob. Recognizing, commending the Center for Black Women's Wellness. Recognizing, commending the Maternal Health Vitality Think Tank. Recognizing, commending an Asian interest sorority and a 501c7 nonprofit organization. Recognizing, commending Scattering Resources. Recognizing June 5th as Women's Golf Day. Recognizing, commending the artistic achievements and community engagement of YK Nice. Recognizing the excellence of Morehouse College athletics. Recognizing, commending healthcare and emergency services. Commending the Morehouse College Honors Program. Recognizing, commending Goody Mob for their outstanding contributions to music. Recognizing, commending Reuben Hairston upon his induction to the Fort Valley State Hall of Fame. Recognizing and honoring the life, legacy, and service of Dr. Benjamin Lermont and designating October 18, 2026 as Dr. Benjamin Lermont Day. Recognizing chronic federal deficit spending. Recognizing and commending Keith Brady. Recognizing April 1st as America 250 Day at the state capitol. Recognizing March 2nd, commending and congratulating Ms. Theresa Gale. Recognizing and commending Lindy Brannon. Recognizing Morgan County boys basketball team. Recognizing and commending Dr. Janet Jackson Gordon. Recognizing and commending Donna Hayland upon her retirement. Recognizing and commending the Greater Northern Fulton Chamber of Commerce. Recognizing and commending the Rotary Club of Johns Creek, North Fulton. Recognizing and commending North Paulding High School girls team. Recognizing and commending Miss Arlesia Battle. Recognizing and commending Miss Chanel Gray. Commending Patty Watley. Commending Maya Jones. Commending Kimberly Postel. Recognizing and commending Edgardo Aponte. Recognizing and commending JCM Ventures. Reaffirming her commitment to integrity. Recognizing and commending Sylvia Golem. Recognizing and commending Nuri Castillo Crawford. Recognizing and commending Elizabeth Garcia. Honoring the National Council of Negro Women upon its 90th anniversary and recognizing June 14, 2026 as Race Amity Day, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the previous resolutions? Hearing none, the resolutions are adopted.
Everything good?
Members, we're going to move on to the rules calendar. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the caption to Senate Bill 150.
Senate Bill 150 by Senator Hickman of the 4th to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 3, Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to retirement allowances, disability benefits, and spouses benefits, so as to extend the program to permit public school systems to employ certain beneficiaries of the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia. This bill having referred to the Committee on Retirement. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Bethany Ballard is recognized to present Senate Bill 150. The lady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I have SB 150, and although this has a Senate bill number, this is the same language of House Bill 372 that this body unanimously supported in February of this year. It allows our retired teachers with 30 years of creditable service to return to the classroom in high needs areas as determined by their public school system. Mr. Speaker, that is the bill, and I ask for your favorable consideration, and I'll be happy to take questions.
The lady has a question. Representative Bernal, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
Yes.
Clayton County would like to tell you thank you. A friend of mine has been asking for that bill, so we appreciate it.
Well, I am glad to be able to do this for the teachers of the state.
Thank you.
Representative Chairman Irwin, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lady yield.
I do.
Is it not true the state of Georgia currently has over 5,000 teaching positions open?
That is correct, and this will help fix that problem.
Thank you for this bill.
Thank you. And I will yield the well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What you got?
Ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 150, the yeas are 159, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Members, we're going to take a couple of further actions. I'm going to recognize Chairlady Cooper for a motion. Representing Sharon Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 717.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 717 by Representative Cooper, the 45th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 34, Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia.
Representative Cooper is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the ketamine clinic bill for the new regulations that to go into effect. And the House did not put physician's assistants as one of the two people that could work besides the nurse anesthetist and physician in a ketamine clinic. So it adds physician's assistants to be able to work in a ketamine clinic if they are highly trained and have special training in respiratory care. That's the only amendment that was made, and I ask for your favorable vote for House Bill, the substitute to House Bill 717. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Lady had no questions. She's yielded the well. On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 717, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, all members have now voted. Mr. Clerk will lock the machines. The yeas are 153, the nays are 3, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute of House Bill 717. Chairman Bonner is recognized to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute of House Bill 979 as amended by the House.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 979 by Representative Bonner of the 73rd to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 5227 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to retrocession of jurisdiction over lands owned by the United States.
Chairman Bonner is recognized to explain the Senate substitute and the House amendment to House Bill 979.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 979 was the bill that was requested by the Pentagon related to juveniles and the crimes committed on military installations. The Senate did make an improvement that made this retrocession framework very specific to juvenile cases, so that if the federal installation wanted to cede that authority to the state for purposes of trying a juvenile, they could do that, and it is very specific to persons less than 17 years of age. The addition that we made, the amendment we made to on Section 2, was to include the creation of the Georgia-Ireland Trade Commission to give the Senate an opportunity to vote on this as a whole. Those are the changes, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Yes.
Representative Evans, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
I was looking at the version that passed the Senate, which was HB 979 SCSFA, and it included a Section 2 that included language that said that if there's any claim of unlawful employment practice against the General Assembly, the House, the Senate, or a member relating to sexual harassment, discrimination harassment, or retaliation, and there's a settlement agreement where the state pays, that those agreements would be subject to open records with the claimant's name being redacted. And I was wondering why the policy of this House wants to be to remove such sunshine, especially in light of the fact that we passed legislation earlier this year in this body that would stop the practice of non-disclosure agreements silencing victims. That seems to be contrary to that and more about protecting folks inside these halls. And I was just wondering if you could tell me why that was removed. And I understand it's been removed from at least 2 other bills that have crossed over, and I just wanted to know if you could enlighten us on that.
So I can't speak to the other bills. I will tell you, I certainly support that conversation. The challenge is knowing I had no conversation with anyone that amendment was going to be a part of any conversation, and to my knowledge, we have not had that conversation collectively here in the House. So I felt as it was an important enough issue that it required debate here in our chamber before we took any action on it.
Will you yield for one further question?
Yes.
It's my understanding that the language was part of a bill that crossed over, that was heard in public safety yesterday, and it's been stripped out of that too. So that would have been a perfect time for vetting if that's what the House wanted. Do you have, I think you're on that committee, maybe? You're not on that committee. So I will find someone who is, and maybe someone can tell me why we do not want sunshine when members of this body have settled sexual discrimination claims against the public.
I think the lady needs to ask questions about this bill. And I think you did part of it, and he clarified that.
I appreciate it. It was removed from this bill as well, though, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And he was trying to get his bill passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to adoption of the House amendment? Hearing none, the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 979 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? For what purpose, Representative Ramon, rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, ma'am.
Is it not true that during this time of the session, a lot of bills get changed last minute, that this is an important bill that we should be voting on, but that what the other representative mentioned has now been colloquially called the Epstein Amendment, and we really do need to pass it at some point before signing day?
I'm kind of focused on 979. I'm not sure about that other information that floats around this building. So we're going to focus on this. And all members voted. Have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 149, the nays are 6, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute as amended by the House to House Bill 979. Representative Donatucci is recognized for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to HB 1030.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Donatucci, the 105th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia and Taylor relating to elementary and secondary education so as to enact the Math Matters Act.
Representative Donatucci is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Good afternoon, members. This is the Math Matters Act. The substitute blends SB 171 with HB 1030. The changes include the advanced math is expanded to 6th through 10th grade for distinguished learners to automatically be placed in advanced math. And secondly, proficient learners can be opted into the advanced math based on the discussions and guidelines from the local schools between teachers, the school, parents, and the students. The House and the Senate have both passed this unanimously. Mr. Speaker, and those here in the chamber, I ask for your favorable support on this bill and the changes.
The lady has no questions. Ladies yielded the well. On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1030, all those in favor will say yes. Those opposed will say no, vote no, and Mr. Clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the yeas are 158, the nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1030. Representative Jesse Petrie is recognized for a motion. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we agree to the Senate substitute as amended by this House on HB 1085.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1085 by Representative Petrie, the 166, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7, and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to imposition rate computation exemptions and credits relative to income taxes.
Chairman Petrie will explain the Senate substitute as amended by the House.
Colleagues, as you'll recall, House Bill 1085 is our big forestry bill to try to solve a crisis in the forestry industry in this state. Passed 161 to 5 in this House. It is coming back to you today from the Senate, and as amended by this House. We've made several changes here to make it a little less robust. We have removed 4 categories of certain types of manufacturing that would be included and available to these credits, to include kitchen cabinets and countertops, organic chemical manufacturing, wood office furniture, and custom millwork manufacturing. Moreover, there is now a provision in here that requires certification by the State Revenue Commissioner in consultation with our state forester, the director of the Georgia Forestry Commission. And unlike how it passed here in the House, it now has a cap. That cap is $250 million over the 5-year sunset period. So that is the maximum benefit. It increases the investment tax credit now, unlike it did when it was in the House, in Tier 1, the most distressed counties, from 8% to 15%. So it's a more robust offering in the most distressed counties. And finally, Mr. Speaker, it increases in Tier 2 counties that investment tax credit from 5% to 10%. Those are generally the changes. At the end of the day, what this measure now does is it dramatically lowers the aggregate maximum benefit, and it is more narrowly defined. It is still an enormous benefit to forestry manufacturers in this state, and is going to be hopefully the salvation of that industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Gentlemen, yield the well. Is there any objection to adoption of the House Amendment AM 440273? Hearing none, the House Amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1085 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 155, the nays are 4, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1085 as amended by the House. Well, let's recognize Chairman Petrie again for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I agree that the House agree to the Senate substitute for House Bill 1097.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1097 by Representative Petrie of the 166 to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to mental health so as to provide for criminal background, license status, and registry checks for owners, applicants, and employees of certain mental health facilities.
Chairman Petrie is recognized to explain the Senate substitute as amended.
Colleagues, this House Bill 1097, which passed 164 to 2 in this House, it deals with criminal background.
Gentlemen, yield. I misread that. You're going to explain the Senate substitute, not the amendment. My bad.
Yes, sir. And this measure deals with criminal record checks in the Department of Developmental Disabilities and Behavioral Health. Believe it or not, the only change in this measure is on line 45, the word or. This is a typo and nothing more. And I hope there's no questions for that, Mr. Speaker, but glad to take any if there are.
And I hope you're right, and there is not. The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1097, All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 160, the nays are 2, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1097. Representative Leverett is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 530.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 530 by Representative Leverett of the 123rd to be entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 9 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating time, place, and procedure so as to provide for authorization for the electronic filing of pleadings in probate court.
Chairman Leverett is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 530 was passed by this House last year. It's been in the Senate for a while. The Senate Judiciary Committee made a few changes. Mainly, we moved the effective date back because we couldn't get it through last year to January 1 of 29. We also added provisions that made it clear that electronic filing as of that date becomes mandatory in probate court. And we provided that courts have to maintain a public access terminal and to assist people who are a little more digitally challenged, like, for example, your parents and me. So those are the basic changes. We also did a little cleanup on some of the language about exceptions to fees and that sort of thing. But substantively, those were the changes we made. These are ones we all were fine with, and so that's the reason we're moving to agree. And I'll be glad to stand for any questions.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I would appreciate your favorable consideration of the motion. I'll yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 530, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and Mr. Clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. This so Mr. Clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 159, the nays 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 530. Representative Yurta is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 304.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 304 by Representative Yurda, the 152nd, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 32 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to municipal courts so as to create the Georgia Municipal Courts Clerks Council.
Representative Yoder is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you'll remember, we passed House Bill 304 last year and actually passed 304 or a similar bill a number of times in this House. And what it did was create a Municipal Court Clerks Council, and it just statutorily recognizes this council. Despite diversity in municipalities, each municipal court has to follow the same rules and laws. Each court has to be run with respect to all constitutional rights of every citizen before the court. This council will assist in standardizing operation of municipal courts, as well as bringing professionalism to the administration of the courts. It will bring best practices and professionalism, and also aid in the creation of a municipal court clerk certification program. More training means better municipal courts for the state. The second part of the bill that we added actually was a friendly add. It was a House bill that creates the office of Senior Municipal Court Judge in the state. A former municipal court judge with 10 or more years experience wishing to become a senior municipal court judge would make application. The application would be reviewed and acted upon by the president of the municipal court clerk's judges. Upon approval of the application, the judge would attain the senior municipal court judge status. The judge would be eligible to serve in our municipal courts as long as the judge maintained certification under OCGA 363227. This bill does not guarantee that any senior court judge would be selected by a particular municipality, but any senior court judge would be subject to the normal selection process. This really makes no substantial changes to the operation of the municipal courts. What it will do is strengthen our courts to better serve the public with professionalism, consistency, and respect for constitutional rights. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well. No other questions.
You had no questions.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 304, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 159, the nays are 2, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 304. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Bill 605, 605?
Senate Bill 605 by Senator Cowser to the 46th and others to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 18 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding prosecuting attorneys so as to provide for additional grounds for discipline of a district attorney or solicitor general for his or her removal or involuntary retirement from office. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Chairman Tyler Paul Smith is recognized to present Senate Bill 605.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of this most learned body. Bring to you today Senate Bill 605, just for a little bit of background historical context. A couple of years ago, we passed the prosecutor oversight legislation creating the commission, and this is a follow-up. And what this bill would do is add several additional grounds for discipline or removal, which would include the following: failure to make reasonable efforts to strictly comply with the Crime Victims' Bill of Rights, which this body passed right around the end of the past decade. Failure to make reasonable efforts to comply with Title 50, Chapter 18, Article 4 relating to inspection of public records. Knowingly authorizing or making a decision based upon certain factors in OCGA 15-18-32 relating to bias or failure to disclose a conflict of interest, failure to make reasonable efforts to comply with discovery requirements, and failure to make reasonable efforts to comply with the Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, that is in the essence of the bill. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for any questions.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well and ask.
You do have one question, Representative Sanchez, to your right.
Just had to get in there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will for a question.
So what is this exact, is there a specific case or anything specifically we're trying to solve with this bill?
I could name you several instances in my personal practice alone where I could tell you that this would be needed, and also having represented victims before where that may or may not have been really pushing the line as to whether the Crime Victim Bill of Rights was adhered to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield well and ask this body's favorable consideration.
Gentleman's yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. This so clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 605, the yeas are 156 and nays are 7. Holy God. You just need to vote no. And I mean, no. I mean, if you don't like the bill, God bless you. On the passage of Senate Bill 605, let's see if I can get it right now. The yeas are 156 and nays are 7. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Don't do that again, please. Mr. Clerk, will you read the captions of Senate Bill 369? 369.
Senate Bill 369 by Senator Still, the 48th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 31 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated the Charter Schools Act of 1998 so as to provide for completion charter schools. This bill having referred to the Committee on Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Speaker Pro Tem of this House, Representative Jan Jones, is recognized to present Senate Bill 369.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill contains 4 different measures that all passed out of the Education Committee and were not controversial or have passed this floor earlier this session, and we're just making sure that they get final passage. The underlying bill, which came from the Senate, pertains to dropout recovery charter schools that are locally approved by school systems. There's one in particular that, just to give an example, in South Fulton that is done very well, but the way they're measured in current law is they're measured against the system-wide average, which is almost never are they able to really exceed the system-wide average because they cater to students who have not been successful in school and who've either quit, dropped out, or at risk of dropping out. So this directs the State Board of Education to establish objective performance standards that show growth, retention, other measurements that are more appropriate for this group of students. It also would take the same measurements and apply it to non-charter schools that are programs run by a local school system. Those are addressed in sections 1, 5, and 6. In section 2, this is a bill that we passed earlier by Robert Flournoy that pertains to virtual schools, public virtual schools, to allow those students to go back to their home school and participate in extracurricular and interscholastic activities. And for example, if they make the play or the team, they'll have the same criteria as other students. And then Section 3 is a bill that we already passed by Todd Jones that asks school systems to consider, it doesn't mandate, but to consider how technology devices, the full cost of them. How long do they last? Sometimes they might be more expensive, but if you look at the resale value, the repair record, but to take all those factors into account before they sign a contract. And then Sections 7 through 11 is cleanup. That is an agency bill from the Charter School Commission, and there's nothing controversial in there. The most significant thing in that section is that the incentive grants for local school systems to approve locally approved charter schools are capped to give our budget and appropriations some certainty as to what the maximum that would be. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Lady has a question to your left.
Okay.
Chairman Parsons is recognized for a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Speaker. Lady Yield.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I may be looking at the wrong bill. I had one on here the other day. I thought it was this bill. Does this one have anything in here about a city school system, the people within that school, within that district, within that city school district, lowering the percentage of people who could ask for a vote to do away with that school system?
No, sir, that's not in this bill.
Thank you very much.
Representative Carter, Doreen Carter to your left.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a gentlelady
Yes,
yield.
ma'am.
When we discussed this bill in committee, the one as it relates to, now I'm about to forget my question. I wanted to know if we had addressed the issue that would ensure for the school districts that approve the charter schools that we had this max, but if for some reason the amount of money was reduced, when they amended this bill, did they recover? Is there a way for the school districts to recover that amount if the promised amount is reduced by them approving a charter school?
Meaning the incentive grant.
The incentive grant. Yeah, you had a few things in here.
You know, I'm not sure if it could be recovered. It would be the maximum amount that could be applied for in a given year.
Correct. And I think there's language in here that if, let's say if it's 30 schools, it's the max, right. You end up with 32 schools and it's going to reduce the amount. But my concern in committee was if that happens, then the following year or at any point could that could those funds be recouped?
We certainly could make another appropriation, but I hope we have that problem, but in the last 10 years, only 3 locally approved charter schools have been approved, so it would be unlikely that they would meet that cap. Hopefully, more of them will approve locally approved charter schools, in which case we could do another appropriation or come back and amend this. Thank you.
Representative Glaze, right behind her, is recognized for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
Is it not true that the focus of this bill is really to make sure that students are first and we continue to make sure that they have what they need inside of our schools and that parity happens for completion schools and that we are not regarded as with the same information and data as a regular public school?
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you for the bill.
Representative Bernal to your left is recognized for behind those flowers right there. There she comes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's the lady you.
Yes.
On the part of the bill about the sports, did the Georgia High School Association approve that?
I don't know if there were any conversations with the Georgia High School Association. I mean, they are a private organization that public schools and private schools choose to affiliate with, but I suspect they were not consulted, that they will then comply with whatever the state law is. But just as we allow homeschool students to participate in extracurricular activities in the school to which they're zoned to, this would provide that parity to students who attend a public virtual school.
Lady has one more question if she'll yield.
Yes, yes.
Then we have a speaker on the bill. Representative Sanchez to your right,
Yes.
towards your back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Thank Thank you so much. Appreciate this bill. So on section 8, line 340, it adds a section about or company. Right now, management is under nonprofit corporations. Does this bill, as currently written, allow for LLCs, for-profit companies, to manage charter schools?
Well, currently, every public charter school, because they're all public, cannot be run by a private company. They are managed by a nonprofit board, and they may utilize a private company to provide curriculum or other services, which frankly traditional public schools do as well. I mean, a lot of times their lawn maintenance, they'll contract that out. But it really doesn't, it just clarifies that, you know, it doesn't change the underlying law.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
So then why do we need to add this language if it doesn't really?
This was language that was brought by the State Charter Commission to, you know, sometimes they'll clarify when they say state board. What does state board mean? It's the State Board of Education. But I do believe the most significant part of that cleanup by the State Charter Commission is purely clarifying and then adding that cap.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lady has no further questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I ask for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 369.
Thank you for answering all the questions. Representative Flournoy, the gentleman is recognized to speak to the bill. How about up to about 10 minutes? Is that plenty of time? I like your style. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this afternoon I want to rise in support of Senate Bill 369. This legislation builds upon the spirit of the Dexter-Mosley Act, which this body passed in 2020-2021, which recognized that students who are educated outside of the traditional school building should still have the same opportunities to participate in extracurricular activities. My colleague from Clayton County asked if the Georgia High School Association had been informed or if they had been asked their advice, and I did consult with them. They are not opposed because this just extends not only from homeschool students, but those students who are in qualified public virtual schools to have the same opportunities as well. So this bill extends the same principle that are allowed to those students who are enrolled in qualifying public charter or virtual schools. It allows them the opportunity to participate in athletics in public school districts in which they live. Athletics teaches teamwork, discipline, leadership, and community pride. A student's learning model should not prevent them from experiencing those opportunities. I also want to thank those for collaboration across the aisle, Senator Steele and others who brought this piece of legislation forward, but I want to speak to a few parents who are watching us online. One of those parents, Ms. Funny, her son, John Funny, participated in sports. He ended up going to a public school in his district, not because he didn't enjoy the virtual school experience, but because he was not afforded the opportunity to participate in athletics. This is what we do. We provide opportunities for our young people, and doing that is the most important thing that we can ask for. So again, thank you for this awesome piece of legislation, and I ask for your favorable consideration for Senate Bill 369. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Representative Flournoy kept his word. Thank you, sir. Nice presentation. The gentleman has yielded the well. That completes our discussion on Senate Bill 369. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 369. The yeas are 151, the nays are 6. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption, Senate Bill 403?
Senate Bill 403 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 12 of Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to disposition of unclaimed property, so as to provide for exceptions for when the property is presumed abandoned. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Matt Reeves is recognized to speak to Senate Bill 403.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House colleagues, with this being a Friday afternoon, this bill is designed to get some money out to each one of you and to our 11 million constituents across the state. This is a follow-up bill to Georgia unclaimed funds. There is $3 billion on deposit with the state of unclaimed funds. This bill makes it easier for our constituents to be able to claim those funds. If you go online to the Georgia Department of Revenue, the Unclaimed Funds Division, right now you can claim unclaimed funds. This makes it easier through implementing the exact match program, which can help pay it out just like a tax refund. It also adds some probate safeguards. The House Judiciary Committee held 3 hearings. We amended this bill extensively, and this helps get the money out to the people. If there are no questions, I will ask for your favorable consideration and yield the well.
Gentleman has no questions.
I yield the well. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 403, the yeas are 158, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Bill 8?
Senate Bill 8 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd to be entitled an act to amend Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to courts, so as to provide for arrest warrant requirements when juvenile courts are acting as a court of inquiry. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Juvenile Justice, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Gullett has a couple of special guests with him today. His mom and dad are in the back right-hand corner, and today is a special day. It's Chairman Gullett's birthday. Happy birthday, Chairman Gullett. Mom and Dad, good to have y'all. I hope he was a good baby, because I'm not sure how he turned out, but I hope he's a good baby. He's a fine man. Y'all did a good job with him. Chairman Gullett is recognized to speak to Senate Bill 8.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you for recognizing my family. It's amazing to have them here. Senate Bill 8 is at its core a bill about access. And I'll tell you, this is not a new idea. This is something that I've been working on, and this body has been working on since before COVID. And we've passed a version of this bill multiple times in this House. Multiple times in the Senate, we could just never agree on quite the language. But we've had time to study it, we've had time to refine it, and now I think we got it right. This bill allows for remote online notarization where a notary and a signer can connect securely through audio-visual technology. It doesn't change traditional notaries today. If you want to go to the bank, or you want to go to your UPS store, or your aunt, or whoever is a notary, you can go get a traditional notary today. This changes nothing with that. But this does add another option. And that option comes with a bunch of strong safeguards. One, the signer's identity must be verified using credential analysis and multi-factor authentication. The entire notarization process is secured and recorded. A detailed electronic journal is maintained, whereas traditional notary, no journal exists today. And those records must be kept for 10 years, at least 10 years. So it's here for a long time if there happens to become problems or questions related to the notarization. In many ways, this actually creates more accountability and documentation than traditional notarizations. Additionally, notaries who want to become an online notary require special training and authorized ensuring professionalism and consistency. Lastly, this bill addresses unlicensed practice of law. This is a problem that is often occurring to our friends in the Asian and Hispanic communities. They're being preyed upon by criminals, presenting themselves as attorneys. They take large retainers, and they're nowhere to be seen when the person needs a lawyer. This is wrong, and these increased penalties reflect such. Mr. Speaker, I know we voted on this many times before. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate your favorable consideration.
Gentleman has a couple of questions. Whip Park, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman Gullett, happy birthday. I'm not speaking in opposition to the bill in recognition of certainly your birthday as well as your parents being here.
I appreciate that.
But is it not true?
They're constituents of yours, by the way, so they're watching you right now.
Excellent constituents, certainly. Is it not true that I remain very concerned about the penalty imposed with respect to the unauthorized practice of law, given that this would be perhaps the most severe penalties in the country with respect to especially those being harmed? I certainly understand wanting to protect those who may not have English as a first language, but at the same time, I have not received data, studies. I think it's been based on anecdotal evidence. But again, would you be open to continuing to perfect this language such that Georgia will treat those folks fairly with respect, again, to the very harsh penalties this bill imposed on the unauthorized practice of law?
I'm always open to conversations. I don't think you should ever be closed to those. We're getting close to the end, to be honest with you, so what that looks like, I don't know. But I'm always open to continuing conversations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Holland, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you for the first part of this bill. This is overdue and brings us into the 21st century in terms of notaries. I have a legitimate question about the second part. Can you talk about the definition of impersonating a lawyer? For example, I am not a lawyer, but many people in this chamber and my constituents assume that I am. If I'm answering questions about legislation or laws we've passed, could that be interpreted as impersonating a lawyer?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay.
If you present yourself as a lawyer, giving legal advice where people believe that you're a lawyer, and saying, no. Thank you.
Representative Reeves is recognized for a question. And then
Thank you.
Representative Hong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman yield for a question?
Sure will.
Is it not true that the residential real estate lawyers who do the most closings and who've monitored this with the unauthorized practice of law provision in there support the bill?
That's correct. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Representative Hong is recognized for a question to your right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I sure do.
Isn't it true that I have many people in the Asian American communities coming to me after hiring an attorney, but come to find out that they are not an attorney, and they've been paying the fees for an attorney, getting advice from attorney, and there's nothing being done right now for those that are practicing unlawfully, and our communities, especially in the Asian American members, are being taken advantage of?
Yeah, you've told me that several times, and that's what we're absolutely trying to address in this legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Panich, to your left in the back, is recognized for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And is it not true that those who engage in the unauthorized practice of law can severely harm somebody's rights to stay out of jail or to reclaim things that do belong to them, and that the damage could be incalculable if someone wants to take advantage of someone else?
I completely agree.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Representative Carpenter, to your right up front.
Does the gentleman yield?
I sure do.
Is it not true that I appreciate you going in to protect members of the Hispanic community? We've seen a huge influx of people pretending to be immigration attorneys and taking tens of thousands of dollars from families at a time when they're the most vulnerable.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that question. That's absolutely true, and that's what we're trying to address with this legislation. Thank you so much.
Representative Santos is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And as a Latina, coming from immigrant families, I certainly do appreciate a lot of this bill. But I am voting yes. But given the $1 million fine that's potential in this bill, are there any safeguards planned to protect employees and directors from unintentional violations?
So, yes, I don't think most of those, that's typically the directors and things is going to be around sophisticated clients doing commercial transactions. They are sophisticated clients. We have a bunch of lawyers around. I think just getting an attestation saying, hey, everyone involved in this is represented by an attorney. That will meet that need. And that's what that second part addresses. So yes, it's only for really commercial transactions, that second part. Thank you so much.
You have one last question. Representative Barnes, to your left. That's your last question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Coming from a scientist, can you please explain if, like, a paralegal gives advice to someone, is that considered acting as a lawyer or giving legal advice? Would that be a crime in this bill?
So it depends if they're taking money and pretending they're an attorney, but paralegals are very trained, and they know what to say and what they can say and what they can't say. So I think no paralegals will be caught up in this.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate all the questions. Appreciate the birthday wishes. It means a lot for you in this house to welcome my family here, and I ask for your favorable consideration. Yield the well.
Gentlemen, has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Chairman Carpenter rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Can you please explain to me why anybody in the world want to pretend to be an attorney?
That's a pretty good point. What purpose does Representative Ramon rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that there's too many attorneys in here and we don't need to pretend to be more of them, but there are real concerns about the implementation of this bill?
I think y'all piling it on now, so be nice to the attorneys. All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 8. The yeas are 115, the nays are 45. This bill has received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chairman Matt Hatchett is recognized for a motion.
I don't know what that's about, but thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House disagree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 974.
Well, I don't know what he thought you were going to do, but anyway. Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 974 by Representative Burns, 159, Jones, the 47th, abstention, the 104th, and others, being entitled an act to make and provide appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027.
Chairman Hatchett, does my heart good to see a response like that. The gentleman is recognized to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, as I'm sure you've heard, our colleagues across the hall destroyed a totally perfect piece of legislation. And this is the first step to hopefully get us together in a room and work it out. Thank you.
I think I know the answer, but let's see how it works out here. On the gentleman's motion that the House will disagree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 974, is there any objection to his disagreement? Hearing none, the House has disagreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 974. Thank you, members. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 569? 569.
Senate Bill 569 by Senator Strickland of the 42nd and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating motor vehicles traffic so as to provide for the issuance of emergency vehicle lights permits for towing service companies in certain instances. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
There you are. Chairman Lumsden is recognized to present the bill, and we're also remembering you and saying a prayer for you too as well, my friend, on the loss. Members, give the gentleman in the well your attention. Chairman Lumsden is going to present Senate Bill 569. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I bring to you Senate Bill 569. This bill addresses two issues affecting the towing industry. It's been worked on by all affected parties for over a year, and the bill before you is a compromise that's been agreed to by all of the affected parties. The first issue is a Senate measure, and the second is my House Bill 184. The first issue involves the use of emergency lights by wreckers. This bill updates the definition of authorized emergency vehicles to include towing service vehicles designated by the Department of Public Safety. It allows qualified towing companies to obtain permits for emergency lights when participating in DOT programs or local contracts or while completing required safety training. This is really an effort that's part of some federal resources that we can qualify for. This will help us to meet some of those benchmarks as for TRIP as we try to clear the roads after accidents, particularly our interstates. The second issue deals with the towing of abandoned motor vehicles. This has been a long-standing issue that's not had any resolution, but this bill defines a statewide towed motor vehicle database. It requires the creation of a searchable database for vehicle owners by VIN or license plate numbers, with implementation beginning in 2026 and operations by 2027. It requires towing companies to submit vehicle information to the database within 3 days of removing and request owner information from the state. It requires the state to return the owner information within 5 days and allows for a small administrative fee. Strengthens notice requirements by requiring notification to owners within 7 days and by specifying required contents, including fees, rights, and lien information. It allows database entry to satisfy notice requirements in certain cases and establishes procedures for advertisements if the owner cannot be located. It provides enforcement by allowing re-impoundment of vehicles and waiving storage fees if notice requirements are not followed. And it establishes a clear lien foreclosure process in magistrate court, including filings requirements, timelines, owners' response rights, and court-ordered dispositions of vehicles. Also sets the effective dates, with the most previous effective date being July 1st, 2026 to start the implementation of the database, and hopefully have it operational by January 1st, 2028. This bill brings greater transparency, accountability, and safety to Georgia's towing system.
Gentlemen will suspend just for a moment. Members, there are some folks trying to hear the presentation. So if you will give them y'all's attention, and to the gentleman in the well, that'll be very helpful. The gentleman will continue.
All right, thank you. This sets effective dates for most provisions effective July the 1st, 2026, and towing and lien reforms effective January the 1st of 2028. This bill just brings greater transparency, accountability, and safety to the Georgia towing system while making it easier for Georgians to locate their vehicles that have been towed, and also gives them information about understanding their rights. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I would greatly appreciate your favorable consideration.
You have a question or two? One question, looks like. Representative Jasmine Clark, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
So in the first part of the bill, section 1.2, when this towing service gets these emergency lights so that they can work with the public safety, Department of Transportation, is there anything in here that says that they cannot use those emergency lights when they are operating outside of that particular context?
Not in the bill itself, but they are subject to the rules and regulations that are set up, and solely under the direction of the Department of Public Safety, so they monitor those things.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Representative Lehman Franklin, to your left, extreme left, that left. Yes, sir.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
In the bill, I don't have it in front of me, but you say they have 3 days to report this to the database. Is that correct?
That is correct. Once they tow the vehicle, they have up to 3 days to report it to the database.
3 days. And what happens if they don't report it?
There's a provision that if they don't comply with it,
Yes,
then they cannot be compensated for those days. If they did not comply with it, that's the person whose vehicle it is not required to pay them unless they go through the proper process.
Okay, thank you.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 569, the yeas are 160, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Bill 589?
Senate Bill 589 by Senator Brass the 6th and others to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the educational programs under the Quality Basic Education Act. This bill I referred to the Committee on Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Scott Hilton is recognized to present Senate Bill 589.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 589 is a combination of a couple bills that we've previously considered in this chamber. The first portion here was included in the literacy bill, House Bill 1193, which passed 170 to 2, and it deals with the enrollment age of a child when first enrolling in pre-K and kindergarten, making it clear that that power of when they are first enrolled is put into the hands of the parent. This was an issue that specifically arose in our home county where the code was really kind of silent on the issue, and so we're clarifying that right now to make it very clear as that it's up to the parent as when they have that decision when to first enroll their child into pre-K and into kindergarten. The second section of the bill is House Bill 1045, introduced and passed by Representative Herring. This is the You Are Not Alone Awareness Act, which passed this House 168 to 0. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for any questions.
The gentleman has a question. Representative Park Cannon to your left, recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you?
Yes.
Do you think that this bill could help reduce the learning gaps by increasing access to scheduled and structured education at an earlier age?
Yes.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Representative Tangi Hearing is recognized to speak to the bill. Lady will have a maximum of 10 minutes. I like that. That's pretty good. 2 minutes. We'll check you out. Ladies recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of Senate Bill 589. First, I want to thank Senator Brass for working with me to incorporate my original bill 1045, the You Are Not Alone Awareness Act, to Senate Bill 589. His commitment to Georgia students matters to me and to the state of Georgia. Every day under the Gold Dome, we work together to better the lives of Georgians. We may not always agree, but when it comes to putting together plans for our children, that's when this body is at its best. Today, we are sending a clear message to our children and families. We see you, we hear you, and you matter. Too many of our students are hurting in silence, carrying burdens they should not carry, and without words to express it. And in those moments, the most dangerous feelings of unbelieving who they are and what they are capable of, we want to make sure that they know that they are not alone. Senate Bill 589 changes that. By making resources available like 988, the suicide crisis line on the back of student IDs, we are placing a lifeline directly in the hands of our students. We also are taking a moment to honor the families who have lost a child. We carry them with us, and we honor the loved ones through this action by working to protect the children we still have and need. This bill sends a simple message. It is a powerful one. You are heard, you are valued, and you are not alone. I urge my colleagues to support and vote for Senate Bill 589. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. That completes our discussion on Senate Bill 589. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purposes Representative Carter rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that I do not agree with 5-year-olds going to pre-K, but I am going to support this bill because parents should have choice, and I want to support my colleague?
I'm sure the lady knows of what she speaks, and I respect her opinion. All members voted. All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 589, the yeas are 156 and nays are 3. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Bill 442?
Senate Bill 442 by Senator Dickerson of the 21st to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to driver's licenses so as to provide for revocation and expiration of commercial driver's licenses for non-citizens. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Rick Jasper is recognized to present Senate Bill 442. Gentlemen, will suspend just for a moment. Let me get a little quieter. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I bring before you Senate Bill 442, a great bill. It has 2 sections in it. The first section talks about movers, those people who move our goods across the state and interstate. It removes a long-standing tariff that's been in place and replaces it with a free market. These movers still stay in under public safety. They have to have bonds, licensing. None of that's changed. Just the tariff has been removed so the rates can move in the free market. Sections 3, 4, 5, and 6 concern the CDL driver's license. That's the commercial driver's license. It addresses keeping our roads safe. What it does, it requires legal presence in our state or in our country to have a CDL, or the commercial driver's license. You can be an immigrant described in Section 3 and be okay through lines 33 through 38 and 47, which covers those who are H-2A, H-2B, and E-2 visa holders. The bill requires all those folks who do not have that, who are illegal here, will be revoked when their visas expire or upon not having one. Secondly, before a transfer of license from a different state or country, You'll have to pass our knowledge skills test that any of us will have to pass. Mr. Speaker, that's what the bill does. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
The gentleman has a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Representative Gisler, to your right out in front of you, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
My concern is Section 5, lines 75 through 77. It looks like the requirement to retake, I just closed it, sorry. To retake the CDL exam only applies to non-citizens who would be legal residents. I was wondering what the reason behind that was.
Okay, it says before transferring a commercial driver's license from a foreign jurisdiction or from another state to this state, they will have to take and pass the knowledge and skills test. So they would have legal presence to have that license.
But it does, we yield for another question?
Sure.
It does specify that only applies to non-citizens, is that correct?
Yes, sir. If you get one, if you determine you get a CDL license, you will take it in English and pass the same, say the same test.
If you yield for one more question?
Sure.
But this will only apply to non-citizens, but this would apply if they have already passed the test, presumably in another state.
Right.
Correct.
Every state has a different category of qualifications to have a license. We're making sure if you transfer into Georgia that you qualify, that you're under ours, that you can read and follow the directions and signs on signboards and on electronic signs and any other road sign.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman has a couple other questions. Representative Cannon, Park Cannon, to your left, right out in front.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just following up on the question that the member asked, a citizen transfers their CDL from another state. Do they have to retake this exam?
No, they do have to pass the requirement of the knowledge and skills test. That's not the entire, the CDL is a very drawn out, extensive test requirement, driver's training, training on how to inspect your truck, braking and all that. That stays intact because remember the CDL is a federal license, which allows interstate travel.
So thank you. Do you further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So your answer was no, a citizen does not. Is your answer that yes, a non-citizen does have to take that?
My answer was what I gave you, in that they will, if it's a non-citizen, if you're a different person from even a non-citizen or a citizen comes to Georgia, you're going to have to take this test. We're going to make sure you do that.
Okay, thank you. Do you yield for a totally different question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how will the state be able to handle a non-citizen who gains their immigration status, but their CDL was revoked because of this passage?
Well, then I don't know what you mean. That person would not be able to drive in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Or anywhere else with a revoked license.
Chairman Carpenter, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Does this not address an issue that we've seen around the nation of people that probably can't read the signs, don't know the traffic laws, creating major havoc in cities and communities across the United States?
It absolutely does, and we want to make sure that this doesn't happen in our state.
That's right. And is it not further true that as someone who loves immigrants from all over the world, I think it's very important that we're able to follow the traffic laws so that our citizens and everyone else are safe?
Absolutely. In your community, it's very important. Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, it's a pretty simple bill, just requires lawful presence. I appreciate your vote for this measure. Thank you. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have several speakers on the bill that are opposed. We have several of them signed up. I'm going to allocate 15 minutes to those that have signed up for them to allocate amongst themselves. Then we do have a minority report, and that will be up to 20 minutes as well. So Representative Sanchez, there he is. Couldn't see you, sir. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Sanchez, and there's some other speakers, Representative Santos and Representative Rahman want to speak, so y'all will allocate that amongst yourselves. Gentlemen, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, obviously, I have very clear concerns around this legislation. This bill, it seems to be a really unfocused attempt to harm drivers who contribute to our state and national economy. Truck drivers are already in short supply and high demand as it is. Any attempt to add more hurdles will only result in increased strain on drivers and the people here in Georgia. There is an estimated national shortage of 80,000 drivers. Meanwhile, roughly 18% of drivers in the U.S. were born outside of the U.S., according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The only argument for this bill is one based on the false premise that somehow non-citizen commercial truck drivers are a greater hazard to public than citizen commercial drivers. This would be despite their going through this exact same application process, exact same training. A complete falsehood. Because if you actually look, the amount of non-citizen trucking crashes that involve non-citizens, out of all the crashes we've seen, is 0.31%. Let me say that again. Out of all the crashes we've seen as of July 2025, 0.31% are from non-citizens. They're actually safer drivers than our own people. And yet somehow you guys want to claim that this is somehow an issue. So having established that the motivation for this is really only fear-mongering, I'll remind you of the serious consequences that further barriers to entry for truckers could have on our economy. Supply chain disruptions are not just on the horizon, they're already here thanks to the president's illegal war in Iran. Gas prices are skyrocketing. The price of oil is already $100 a barrel. Diesel for many of these truckers have gone way above $5, and we are hearing from so many truckers across the nation who are struggling significantly right now and barely making ends meet because of how high diesel is. It is the absolute worst time imaginable to be putting a restriction on the licenses we have here in Georgia. When you shrink an essential labor force that is already in short supply, you are setting up the American economy for catastrophe. Look, I'm not going to shed tears for Amazon and Walmart, but I will always put the needs of the workers first. The trucking industry is largely composed of small freight companies that contract with big retailers. It's also the foundation of the modern economy, and any harm to its associated industries will inevitably harm them and us. So this bill manages to include a tax on labor, consumers, and small businesses. The bill's language also creates a situation in which an American citizen would be permitted to operate in the U.S. with a CDL issued in a foreign country, but a non-citizen would not. I don't really understand that. I'm not sure why we're allowing that. I'm not sure what the difference is there, because once again, like I've said, they're actually safer drivers. This appears to honestly be anti-immigrant discrimination from this bill, to be frank. If it really intended to reduce crashes, we could simply provide more training for the CDL license process. But instead, it penalizes and suppresses almost 20% of the industry's workforce. If the language did not include terms related to immigration, if its focus were some other arbitrary chosen group, every member of this assembly would easily recognize it as a deeply irrational and reckless piece of legislation. There is no evidence to suggest that we actually need this bill. This is once again political play for political points. At best, this bill provides more bureaucratic red tape, and at worst, it shoots our economy in the foot. Its impacts are universal, as all Americans depend on the labor of truck drivers. And I also want to just mention as a side note, there's another provision of this bill that isn't talked about as much that would make it so that motor carriers of household goods are free to set their prices without regard for state regulation, which would make it so that companies like Instacart could just raise their prices on us without having any regulation, which also seems like a bad thing to do when the cost of living is going up so much for everyone. So I'm not sure why that's also in the bill, another pro-corporate piece of legislation that goes against the workers and the people. This is a deeply misguided piece of legislation, whereas only provided justification is a blind, unfounded contempt for immigrants, frankly. And so I urge you all to vote against it if you supposedly care about the immigrant community. Thank you. I yield the will.
Gentlemen, yield the will. Representative Santos. The ladies recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 442. And I want to be clear about what this bill does, because the title will not tell you. Henry County is one of the largest premier logistic hubs. Wayfair, Home Depot, John Deere, Whirlpool, over 125 manufacturing and distribution companies sitting at the intersection of I-75 and I-675, with access to 80% of the American people in 2 days on the road. Georgia has been the #1 state for business in 12 years in a row. That did not happen by accident. It happened because people showed up and they did the work. This bill targets those people. It automatically revokes the commercial driver's license of any legal immigrant worker, a refugee, an asylum seeker, someone on temporary protective status, the moment their visa expires. Not if they broke the law, not if they were at safety risk, not if anything changed about who they are or how they drive. They are the same worker they were the day before. The bill just decided they no longer count. Now here is a part I need my colleagues to hear. The bill exempts H-2A and H-2B visa holders, guest workers, the ones tied to specific employers, the ones who cannot organize, can't negotiate, the ones certain industries prefer because they have the least power. Those workers, they get to keep their license. Everyone else will lose theirs. That is not a safety policy. That is not an accident. That is a decision made in this building and whose labor we protect and whose we throw away. Mr. Speaker, when a company comes to Georgia and we tell them that we are open for business, we're making a promise that this state is open. This bill breaks that promise to the workers already here, already working, already holding up Georgia's economy. Every member who votes yes on this bill owns that decision. I urge my colleagues to vote no on SB 442. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Ladies, yield the well. Representative Ramon is recognized to speak to the bill. The ladies recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise as part of the debate of this bill because the reality is that our roads are seeing an increase in congestion, in traffic, in various other incidents on the road. And when it comes to truck drivers in particular, it has been concerning. You know, what we have seen is that we've seen stopped school buses, we've seen them drive into an active crime scene, we've seen them strike a child, we've seen them prevent people from evacuating during a fire, stopping in front of an ambulance. We've even seen first responders having to drive these vehicles out of the way. Actually, no, we haven't. I'm talking about Waymo cars. Waymo cars have been a massive problem on our roads. It is an actual real problem that we need to be addressing. And to see a bill like this one come to the floor instead seems to frankly be an abdication of responsibility and an attempt to score cheap political points on the backs of people who are just trying to make ends meet. Because earlier we heard about how, well, you know, some of these people can't read the signs, while simultaneously hearing about how these licenses require an exam. So which is it? Are they able to read enough to pass certain exams and provisions, or are they not? Because when I checked and when we looked at various driving tests, there's a reason that these signs have specific shapes. Those shapes, in addition to the lettering, are just as important. And yet, because it is an even number year, and because this is sort of the moment to score these political points, and because, again, it's easy to keep punching down on people, I don't find it appropriate. I mean what I said. Every single incident that I shared has happened due to a Waymo vehicle. In fact, some of them right here in Atlanta. I was at a race, and a Waymo car tried to turn into the crowd of participants of that race. And we had to have people stand in front of it to prevent it from moving. And do you know what's even more absurd about all of it is that many of their drivers are actually in the Philippines. So if we're serious about immigrants not knowing how to drive, well, guess what? These corporations are now bypassing all of this and sending these jobs straight overseas to people who have never driven on our roads. Instead, we're going after truck drivers who have been driving on our roads, who are delivering our food, who are showing up when it's getting harder every single day, and saying, no, they're the ones we should be targeting. And honestly, sometimes it really is starting to feel like this is our way of taking back what little control we've completely ceded to all the special interests flying all around us. That instead of taking risks and punching up, we've chosen to punch down. Because again, while this seems like a very sort of basic structural change that we're doing when it comes to paperwork and agencies and the types of licenses, what we're talking about is forcing people to take time away from work, time that many of them cannot afford to take, to update their licenses, to update their requirements more than what was already expected of them. Because I want to be clear, what this is doing is it's changing the standard. And when you change the standard this way, it frankly comes across as hypocritical. Because what is the solution here, by the way? I'm actually really curious. Has anybody thought about what this is going to do to our supply chain that's already starting to crumble the way it did right before COVID? Has anybody looked at the impact of what is going to happen when many of these drivers are no longer able to deliver the goods that we need? Forget want for a second. We're talking about basic goods that we actually need. Have we thought about, for example, why is it that our economy is built in such a way that these are the only drivers now being hired and exploited by these corporations? The amount of questions that we're leaving on the table in order to pass this bill and feel good about it seems, again, to me like an abdication of responsibility. People deserve to work with dignity. And what we have effectively done is made the ability for people to legally live and work here almost impossible. We keep saying, do it the right way, do it legally, do this, do that. And then, as soon as they meet the standards, we shift the goalposts one more time. And we keep doing it over and over and over again, as if these people have limitless resources. Folks are trying to do the right thing. We just had a bill about holding lawyers accountable because they're taking advantage of people trying to do the right thing. What do you think created that ecosystem? Our bad bills and policies. We can't keep putting Band-Aids on things and somehow magically making it worse in the process, which, by the way, kudos to everybody. That was phenomenal work. But I don't know how we keep doing it this way. How do we keep taking a problem and somehow the solution is making it worse? It actually needs to be studied because it's been deeply fascinating to me, especially this year. We have an opportunity to do better by people. I have said this before, our state is full of so much potential. There are people here all around the state making do with so little and yet somehow being able to contribute, frankly, more than most of us in this chamber. And instead of recognizing it for that and asking, how can we make this easier for you, we are saying, how can we make this even harder? When there are actual real problems impacting everyday people more directly and more consistently than what this bill is trying to do. And I say trying, because it's not going to actually get it done. All this is going to do is create more people unable to meet the requirements of the law. Because when we talk, and I've said this before, in fact, I don't think I've said it this year, but what are the unintended consequences of bills like this? What it does is it sets a standard that makes it almost impossible to meet. We're creating these pockets where people keep falling into them with no way out. We need to have better laws that are actually consistent instead of contradictory. And it's for this reason that I rise in opposition to this bill and urge you to vote no. Because from every perspective, whether it's moral or economic, this bill is going to do more harm than good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Ladies yielded the well, and that completes those that are speaking in opposition. We're going to move on to a minority report. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. We'll now have up to 20 minutes for a minority report, and we have two folks signed up, so y'all will, Representative Ali and Representative Adesanya will divide that time amongst them. So Representative Ali is recognized to speak to Senate Bill 442. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I rise to discuss a quiet and often invisible reality that people of Georgia face every day. It is a reality that is often unnoticed when operating well, but dangerous when not. The moment when store shelves are empty, life-saving medicine is delayed, or an important delivery never comes for the small business owners of Georgia. We are talking about the movement of goods. We are not simply talking about trucks going up and down I-75. We are talking about the lifeline of our state, and specifically the shortage of drivers. And we must be clear, that pulse is driven not by abstract market forces, but by the steady hands and the tireless dedication of the men and women who sit behind the wheels of those trucks on our interstates. We know that our greatness is a choice. We know it is because of the hardworking members of this assembly, and we for sure know that is because of the hardworking Georgians. It is built by the cranes of Savannah, fueled by the runways of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. But let's not be mistaken. That vast and intricate machinery rests upon the foundation of people. Right now, that foundation is under strain. We are facing a documented and measurable shortage of qualified drivers, a challenge that threatens the stability of every grocery store and job site in this state. The legislation before us today suggests that these professionals, the professionals that have already proven their skill, who have passed every federal test, and who have committed no violation, are somehow a problem to be solved or a risk to be managed. We are told that these new measures are a method of public safety, but these are simply levels of unnecessary bureaucracy to demand that an experienced driver retest for a skill they have practiced safely for years is not an act of security. It is an act of red tape. It is a tax on their time, a tax on their dignity, and ultimately a tax on the Georgia consumer. While our neighbors around us are welcoming talent, this bill chooses barriers. It fails the fundamental test of what we call good policy. It does not make Georgia stronger. It only makes us more expensive and cumbersome. We can protect the integrity of our laws without compromising the integrity of our economy. We can verify a driver's presence without devaluing their profession. Georgia is a state of vast ambition and quiet confidence. We do not need to look at our neighbors with fear. I know this chamber is better than this. I believe our future requires us to choose a path of strength, not the path of self-inflicted hardship. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for your no vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Thank you, Representative Ali. Gentleman's yield the will. Representative Adesanya, the gentleman's recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill. I want to start with saying something we don't say often on this floor. Immigrants start businesses, pay taxes, hire neighbors, and contribute to this state in ways that show up in our GDP, in our tax receipts, and in the daily function of our economy that all of us depend on. And that's not a political statement, it is an economic fact. And today, this bill asks Georgia to make it harder for a significant class of those workers to do their jobs without any evidence that doing so makes us safer, stronger, or better off. Immigrants represent a growing share of Georgia's workforce across nearly every major sector. Think about agriculture, in construction, and in healthcare. And yes, in transportation and logistics, immigrant workers fill critical roles that keep the state economy moving. And according to the American Immigration Council, immigrants in Georgia contribute tens of billions of dollars to the state economy annually. They pay state and local taxes. They spend money in Georgia's communities. They support Georgia jobs, and not just their own, but the jobs of the people around them. when we pass laws that push those workers out, we do not just affect them. We affect every businesses and every community connected to them. Now let's talk specifically about commercial drivers. The trucking industry is the backbone of American commerce, and roughly 70% of all freight in the United States move by truck. At some point in its journey, every product on a store shelf, and right now that industry is short on drivers. The American Trucking Association estimates a shortage of tens of thousands of drivers, and that number is projected to grow in the coming years. The state of Georgia will fill that shortage directly. And we're a logistics state. Think about the ports of Savannah, and the gentleman mentioned Outfield Jackson Airport. When there are not enough drivers as things stand, freight sits and deliveries are delayed. Costs go up, and those costs do not stay in the supply chain. They are passed on to the consumers, to the businesses, and to the Georgia families who are already stretched thin by the cost of living. And into that context, this bill arrives and say, let us add new barriers for non-citizen commercial drivers. Let us require them to take another test when they transfer a license, say from the state of Michigan or Illinois. A CDL from every state already meets the federal standard. And we're saying let us revoke their CDL in Georgia and take the test all over again. Members, I can't find any logic in this bill, and I do not believe Georgia's economy can afford it. Now, here is what I know about the non-citizen commercial license, because I have a CDL myself. And I know that commercial drivers will be affected by this bill. They've already passed the same federal test every CDL holders passed, and they meet the medical standards. They are subject to the same drug and alcohol testing, and they carry the same certification. So their safety records are already evaluated by the same federal agencies. And under the same criteria, there is no data, none suggesting that this group of drivers is less safe. I mean, think about it. When you travel to Europe, you're not taking any tests to drive cars in Europe. And the gentleman mentioned that you cannot read signs, which is not true, because I've traveled to many countries and I can literally drive without understanding the language. It's a common knowledge when you look at road signs, you can interpret and know what that means. And it's proven over and over that we're passing bills that's not really doing anything to advance the crisis and issues we're facing in Georgia. We're passing bills to hurt people, to make things worse. I mean, we've got healthcare crisis that we can be spending time and every energy to resolve that. We've got time that we can be spending to help people who need help. We're passing bills that does nothing but makes things harder for Georgia. Think about an ante room. We go in there and eat. How do y'all think the food get in there? By some point, they're transported by trucks and freight. I mean, this is not a, we talk about common sense bill. This bill, in my view, has no common sense. I can travel to China today and drive cars safely. I can travel anywhere, and I don't have to understand the language. Well, members, I urge you to vote no on this bill. It does nothing to help Georgians. There is no common sense in this bill, and I hope we can at least pass bills like the ones we did earlier today. Well, I will yield, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has no questions. I appreciate his insight. The gentleman's yielded the well. Nobody else. That completes the minority report. We have chairman's time. The chairman waves. Is that correct? Chairman waves. That chairman. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purposes Representative Jordan Ridley rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that a vote for Senate Bill 442 is a vote for accountability and safer highways across our state?
I'm sure the gentleman believes what he speaks. For what purposes Representative Chokus rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry, sir.
Isn't it true that I lived in Europe for almost 5 years and that the basic proficiency in local language requirements in Europe require up to 3 languages, and the most difficult country to obtain those skills is Germany, and that these basic requirements we have and we're trying to implement in Georgia is much easier to accomplish than it is in Europe? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm sure the gentleman knows what he speaks. For what purposes Representative Terry Cummins rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, ma'am.
Isn't it true that if we really wanted safe streets and safe highways in Georgia, we would be applying this law to all CDL drivers and not just a few?
As the gentleman that spoke has a CDL, I've had one. That test is pretty. I had to take that test as well, and you have to get those endorsements. You have to meet the criteria. So. But I'm sure the lady believes what she speaks. For what purpose does Representative Petrie rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 makes it a federal crime to hire those illegally in the country? And is it not further true that any employer would want to ensure that when a visa has expired, that an individual continues to be eligible to work in the country?
Sure, the gentleman believes what he speaks. I'm going to take 2 more, and then we're going to move on. For what purpose does Representative Adenia rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Is it not true that there are no signs in the alphabet? No signs in the alphabet.
No signs in the alphabet.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I understand the gentleman's parliamentary inquiry.
When you look at languages, when you talk about languages in any country that you can drive in, and they put signs on the street, you can read the signs when you're driving the car. So I say,
I'm sure the gentleman believes what he believes. I believe we spend a lot of time on literacy around here, so we'll see how that works out. And we're still trying, but I respect the gentleman's opinion. I know he believes in what he speaks. For what purpose does Representative Martinez rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
Does he waive?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that a vote to agree on House Bill 39 is a vote to put Georgia communities in Metro Atlanta ahead of partisan politics?
I'm sure there are many people who believe just what you said, and I'm sure the gentleman does. Have all members now voted? I think we worn this one out. Have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 442. The yeas are 98, the nays are 59. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I'm going to recognize Chairman Hitchens for a motion. The gentleman is recognized for a motion.
I make a motion we agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 369.
Mr. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 369 to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to equipment of motor vehicles.
Before I ask the chairman to speak to his motion, let me make clear something, and I think is my position when it comes to when we send a bill over to the Senate and they make the decision to change the language in the bill and send it back. In that case, I've had conversation with a number of folks in the majority party and the minority party that the author of that bill will control the action on that bill. Now, we do have a little bit of an unusual circumstance here, and that's the member that was the first signer. The author of this bill is no longer a member of this House. Chairman Hitchens is the second signer on the bill. So it's my position that the second signer on the bill then will control the action of the bill when it comes back to this House. And that's why I'm going to recognize Chairman Hitchens to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 369. Chairman Hitchens is recognized.
Now, this is going to be a little unusual since I was the second signer, and it came back very different from what it went over. And I'm going to yield to Will.
On the gentleman's motion, the House agreed to the Senate substitute, House Bill 369. All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. Mr. Clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? We're going to take some parliamentary inquiries. So everybody stay calm. We're going to start with Representative Kendrick. Recognize the lady. For what purposes, Representative Kendrick? Rise.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry, ma'am.
Is it not true that this bill makes the election of only 5 Metro DAs nonpartisan and doesn't affect the other 46 DAs?
I'm sure the lady's read, and that's her understanding. For what purpose does Whip Park? Rise.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry, sir.
Is it not true that this demonstrates incredibly bad governance, and that not only is this bill not germane, but it is likely unconstitutional, and that it is trying to change how constitutional officers are elected?
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks, and sounds like that could be settled in the judiciaries when that goes to that point. For what purposes, Leader Estration? Rise.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that HB 369, as it was amended in the Senate, came back to us, only applies to Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, Clayton, and for what are defined as consolidated law enforcement counties, the opinion from Legislative Counsel has been given to me that it is constitutional and it treats certain local offices as nonpartisan, similar to how judges are classified at the local level, so that partisan politics is minimized when providing basic local governmental services.
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks and believes what he speaks. Now, members, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to recognize you for a parliamentary inquiry, and you're going to show the member making inquiry respect, no matter what your opinion is on this. It's how this House operates. It's the way we've done it in the past. That's the way we're going to operate today and in the future. And I appreciate every one of you, because I know you respect your colleagues. For what purposes, Representative Evans? Rise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, ma'am.
Isn't it true that not only did this language fail to pass the Senate on a bipartisan basis, and isn't it also true that this language that we're about to vote on was not vetted in any House committee? And isn't it further true that the author of the bill is not here and the stand-in took no questions? So it means not only did we not have any debate, not only did we not have any vetting in committee, we haven't even been permitted to ask questions, and we are regulated to this second-rate process of parliamentary inquiry, which is it's not within the dignity of this body and how the citizens of this state would expect us to consider such a vast policy change. Isn't it further true, Mr. Speaker, that not only has it been the policy of this body that the author of the bill would control the agree-disagree, but also that we would not pass language in an agree-disagree process that hadn't been vetted by a House committee? And so isn't it true that we are not following the protocol that has been set forth for this session, and that it is just beyond the dignity of this House? Isn't that true?
We disagree on that part, but I do know the lady believes what she speaks, and I appreciate her viewpoint. For what purpose does Representative Kelly rise?
Mr. Speaker.
Start again. Parliamentary inquiry. Your mic was out on. You have a parliamentary inquiry?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that we routinely take up agrees, disagrees, and they're known as non-debatable motions?
I think that's the posture of this House. The gentleman knows what he speaks.
Further parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
One more. We have a couple more I'm going to take up.
And
What's
yes,
the gentleman's inquiry?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it true that by passing this legislation, we're giving voters the opportunity to rid themselves of district attorneys who are more concerned with playing partisan games than prosecuting and delivering justice?
The gentleman has his opinion, and I certainly know he believes what he speaks. For what purpose does Representative Wilkerson rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Is it not true that there was an amendment proposed that would take this statewide, this such great policy that would also include the sheriffs in every single county? And we expect that if this does pass, that every county across the state will have nonpartisan offices for this, and anybody voting for this sets the precedent. It is not further true that if your goal is to eliminate those partisan politicians, you should probably run better candidates. And is it not further true that this will decimate my local Republican Party because all their qualifying fees will be gone, as well as the Democratic Party? So if you do not like your county party, this is a perfect bill to do so they cannot support you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is that not true?
I wanted to hear from the gentleman. I know the gentleman believes what he speaks, and he's very well versed. For what purpose does Representative Earhart rise? To start again, your mic wasn't on.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that many members of the minority party live in these 5 affected counties and have already determined their counties to have unique needs, as evidenced by their previous votes to make 3 of these 5 counties' school boards nonpartisan?
No, the lady believes what she speaks. For what purpose does Representative Jasmine Clark rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill started out being about food trucks, and now instead of us doing food truck safety, we are passing sweeping, very controversial and impactful legislation on these 5 counties and how their elections are run? Is that not true, Mr. Speaker?
The lady knows what she speaks, and I know I've honored her and her request when some changes were made in her bill. She controls it. And yes, I can't control what comes back from the Senate. For what purpose does Representative Okoye rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry, sir.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that what's good for the goose is good for the gander?
I've heard that all my life, sir.
Okay. So if it's good for the 5 counties here, it should be good for the whole 159 counties in Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Appreciate the gentleman's point. And know he believes what he speaks. For what purpose does Representative Hong rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that House Bill 369 promotes fairness and it's going to eliminate unnecessary partisanship in Metro Atlanta local elections?
I know the lady is from this area and she knows and believes in what she speaks. For what purpose does Representative Sanchez rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Isn't it true that the reason we're putting this bill forward is because there's a certain side that's losing elections in these counties, so they want to hide behind a nonpartisan badge in order to win them?
Well, I guess we'll figure that out when it comes time to vote, if the gentleman's accurate or not. I'm not going to agree or disagree with him on that, but I know he believes in what he speaks. For what purpose does Representative Seabaugh rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that a vote to agree to House Bill 369 is a vote to strengthen trust in my county's local government and elections?
I know the gentleman believes what he speaks, and I see the clock has run out on me, so I'm going to ask the clerk, have all members voted? If so, he'll lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 93, the nays are 64, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 369. Senate Bill 446 will be postponed to the next legislative day. So that will conclude our work on the calendar today. We're going to move on to afternoon orders. Chairman Gerald Green. Members, this is a very serious that concerns the loss of one of the former members of this House who now serves in the Senate. So I'm going to ask you if you'll please stand and give Chairman Green your attention as he talks about a dear friend of all of us in this room, and that's Senator Freddie Powell Sims, and a tragedy in her life. The gentleman's recognized, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, it is with a very heavy heart that I come to tell you that Senator Freddie Powell Sims' husband, Norman, her true love, has passed away. He was placed in hospice very early last week, and his time came early this morning. And I would like for you to keep Senator Sims in your prayers and thoughts. She's a great friend of all of us that are standing here. She served us well, and she is not going to run again. She took her name off the ballot, and she is not going to run again. And that is a great loss for the state of Georgia and certainly for us. And so would you bow with me for just a moment as we remember her husband, Norman. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I didn't have the honor of knowing her husband, but I can tell you all, I think we can agree that Freddie Powell Sims is one of the finest individuals I've ever known. Our condolences to her. Representative Cameron. You got to get this in. I'm doing the same thing this year. You're a little bit ahead of me.
Yes,
the gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor Rodney Ross, the chief of the New Salem Fire Department, who's celebrating 50 years working with them. In 1976, he joined as a paramedic, EMT, and a few years later became the chief. And now he's celebrating 50 years. He's done a great job. He's more than a chief. He's a member of that community who helps people. He has moved things along in that community in New Salem. And we love him and we respect him for all the things he does, not only in the fire department, but to help people. Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I yield the well.
Man, I thought you were doing a 50th anniversary. That's what I'm working on. I wasn't doing about the fire chief, so I saw 50 and I knew it was time to talk. Representative Reeves. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Speaker Burns. House colleagues, I've got 60,000 VIPs in my district, but my favorite one is celebrating her birthday this week, and that's Suzette Reeves. We've been married 25 years. We got 3 kids, 2 in college, 1 in high school. My mother-in-law is proud of her having her birthday. We've been married 25 years. Love you, Suzette. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to put something up on the board. Representative Ali, come tell us a good story here, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As always, on the screen is 14-year-old Xavier, who was born in 2011. He is outgoing and active. He enjoys interacting with his friends at school. He is a friend to many, but he is also looking for a family to be adopted in since he is in the foster care system. We can always make that happen through itsmyturnnow.dhs.georgia.gov. Oftentimes, our responsibilities should extend more than just legislation and improving lives directly, I believe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
What's that gentleman's name? Xavier, good-looking young man. Members, we have one. We're going to do some privilege resolutions, and we have one further action, and we're going to do the privilege resolutions right now. Mr. Clerk, some members have dropped some more privilege resolutions, so let's make sure we get those done. Mr. Clerk, if you read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Howard Edward Smith. Recognizing and commending Captain Dr. Melvin Pender. Recognizing and commending Reverend Dr. Richard B. Haynes in celebrating his retirement. Recognizing and commending the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists on its 75th anniversary. Recognizing and honoring Evelyn Wallace Johnson Camp on the occasion of her 100th birthday. Commending Aaron Huff South Paulding High School's 2026 Teacher of the Year, and commending Sierra Hallett, a Family Consumer Science Legislative Fellow for the 2026 regular session of the General Assembly of Georgia. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? Here and done the privilege. Have one more. The privilege resolutions are adopted. Before I recognize Representative Holly, I know some folks are stepping out. Monday will be the last day to file your privilege resolutions, to have a privilege resolution done this year. So you need to get those done, ready over the weekend, and get them into Ledge Council on Monday. That will be the cutoff. So if it's something important to you, you need to get to it. Representative Holly, the gentleman is recognized for an afternoon order. Representative Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm joined by my colleague, who I will certainly miss. We are gathered today to recognize a man who has spent most of his life actually being able to support equality, common sense leadership, as well as so many who have been able to make their mark on Atlanta. We rise to recognize, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We rise to recognize Ron Zarpoli. He has spent 83, he actually visited over 83 countries throughout the globe in the last 75 years. He has been active in supporting our local politicians, himself actually being assistive of Michael Julian Bond, as well as Mayor Shirley Franklin, the mayor of Macon, Jack Ellis, the first black mayor elected to the post, Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young, several city council members, including our beloved Representative Park Cannon, and we just like to be able to have an opportunity. He was unfortunately was not able to stay with us, but Ron Zarpoli has been actively contributing to our public good to make sure that we have representatives at the city, at the local, and the state level who are going to reflect the values of people. So, Ron, if you're watching us, we love you and appreciate you, and Georgia thanks you.
Thank you, Representative Holly. Sounds like a stellar gentleman. Thank you for doing that. That concludes our announcements. We've already acknowledged one birthday, that of Representative Joseph Gullett, but we also have another one, Representative Matt Dubnik. On Monday is Representative Dubnik, so I was ahead of myself. Representative Dubnik on Monday, so let's wish those two gentlemen happy birthday at the appropriate time. I think members, thanks for no announcements. Wow. Thank you, members, for working together with your pages that helped us get our work done today, so we don't have any page photos. So thanks to all of our pages who worked and served us today. I'm going to recognize the majority leader of this House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 at 10 o'clock a.m.
On the motion of Majority Leader F. Stration, this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. I'm going home for supper. Y'all can stay here. This House stands adjourned.